Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of TCG Talk, back today with another video. And in today's video, I'm going to be giving you a matchup spread for Tristan, specifically when Tristan, kind of talk about what is the deck good into, what is it bad into, at least at the time of recording this video. So you can not only get a reason to play the deck from a mechanical standpoint from my past videos and like a thematic standpoint, but also from a sheer competitive level, like where does the deck sit? And the short of it is the deck's in a very good spot. It's one of the best decks in the format, at least right now, in my opinion. But we'll get right into it. It is a tier list-esque video, so these are always a good time. But if you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. Hopefully enjoy your stay. If you're a long-standing supporter, thank you so much as always. To my Grand Archive friends who are coming and are new to the channel, please leave feedback in the comments. The whole point of this is, to take one person's opinion, give your own opinion, and we have a good discussion about it. I'll bring the tier list. I guess it's not really a tier list, it's more of a matchup spread up on here. Couple house rules. One, these percentages are kind of a mix of my own play against all of these decks in the time I've been playing Tristan, as well as matchup data across like several different metas if relevant, right? Like the biggest thing about Grand Archive, and that's another thing, is there's so many different ways to play a deck, right? How Slimes is playing now post-ban is completely different than how it was 2 metas ago. Other decks are playing, stuff like Fire Aggro is playing differently, Wind Allies play differently. All this is like, there's so many little nuances to this game, which is why it's so great. But what I tried to do is I tried to pick the most common matchups you're going to face against and the most like consistent archetypes in those specific champions. And we'll talk about those when that happens. The last thing is like, again, I've tried to talk about this from like as much as I can, the player standpoint, from like, not brand new player, but like decently new competitive player all the way up to top players. Obviously, these percentages can change based off your competency with the deck, how much you're teching into it, stuff like that. So I tried to make it as general as possible. So definitely give me some grace there. But yeah, we'll go right into it. So at the top, I have Wind Searu. So Wind Searu is probably the best matchup for Tristan in the current meta. I would say it's just over 60%, 60-40 if both, and that's actually the best way to look at it. Every single one of these matchups, just assume that both pilots are equal skill level. That's the best way to look at these. If both pilots are equal skill level, both pilots have equal preparation, where does the matchup sit? And the Wind Searu decks, for the Guoja decks, it's not really Wind Searu, it's Wind Guoja with Searu. It's very good for Tristan. Tristan has a lot of interaction, right? When the dragon flips, being able to bounce it in multiple different ways with Ensnaring Fumes and Dream Fairy and all this other stuff. Also, Incap has some really good targets against that deck. So it's most of the time it's very good for Tristan. Guoja really has to be extremely greedy to get to level 3 quickly before Tristan can really develop the answers. And then once Tristan gets to level 3, it gets even harder. So it's a very good matchup. And from a sheer competitive standpoint, if you're wanting to like really bully at one part of the meta, because Wind Guoja is very good right now, this is like one of the best ways to do it. It's probably her best matchup. Then we have a slew of matchups that are just 55 to 60% or what I would call slightly favored for Tristan. Tristan is one of the best decks in the format right now, and the biggest thing about Tristan is she gets better, more so than even other decks. She gets better the more you understand the matchup and how to play into them. And also, if you know the meta, or at least have a good understanding of what's going to be mostly represented, and you can tech properly, the gains that she gets compared to other decks for knowing that information is just so much more. So these can go slightly up or slightly down depending on how that folds. But the first one is Fire Aggro. She can really interact with Fire Aggro's game plan. It's usually not a good matchup for Fire Aggro, like FISA or like Fire Allies. Really bad for them for the most part. Just has a lot of ways to interact with what they're doing with like Veiling Breeze, Dream Fairy in a way, Arthur's, like it has a lot of different interactions and Snaring Fumes. So really good against that deck. This one's a new one, obviously. The Diana list, whether it's level 3 or just like a straight level 2 water Diana list, so far they've been doing pretty good. We'll see if other Diana lists pop up. Again, I took the most common matchups you'll see, which is normally Water Diana with the new Ether Wings. I have felt it to be slightly favored, although this may creep down to here as the Diana lists get more tuned. People understand how to play into you, stuff like that. But as of currently right now, I think it's a little bit slightly favored. Then we have Crux, usually Lorraine. Crux Lorraine is a weird matchup because the matchup's kind of flipped over time. Not flipped, but it's changed over time. And a lot of people, the general consensus, I've played against it a handful of times, and I've felt pretty good into it for sure. But a lot of people say that this matchup's really good for Tristan. But if you look at the matchup data, even at the regional level, it's pretty close to even. It's like just barely in Tristan's favor, which is really interesting. It's one of those, you get that in card games sometimes where like the perception of a matchup is more skewed than the actuality of the matchup, if that makes sense. And I think that's one of them, just personally. But it is slightly favored, I think, for sure. Same thing with Slimes. Slimes used to be down here or even here, but post-ban, it's definitely gotten better for Tristan and a little bit slightly favored. And then we get to the one matchup that I personally have not played. I am taking this transparently sheer from matchup data so far. It seems like Suzaku is a little bit, it's slightly favored for Tristan, so that's good. And then finally, Exia, Jin basically is pretty good for Tristan. I would think with a really highly competitive, really good Tristan player, it's probably actually up here. But if you're looking at equal skill level between both opponents, it's probably right there. So that's all the matchups that Tristan is slightly favored into, in my opinion. As you can see, it's a lot of the meta. Tristan only really has one bad matchup, in my opinion, both from my experience. Maybe people have it different, and we'll get to that in a second. Then we get to all the 50-50 matchups. So the most controversial one on here probably is Gimbu. I think a lot of people think that Gimbu's probably here. We're like really favored for Tristan. I think Gimbu has a lot more interaction with what Tristan's trying to do and could slow Tristan down a little bit better. Yes, they have to play around the dragon being bounced just like when Guoja does, but they just have a little bit more interaction with what other things Tristan is trying to do while it's happening. So it's a little bit harder to like mess with. And they also have the mill strategy if they want to go that route. So there's a little bit, Gimbu has a little bit more outs than the wind variant does, the fire, and they have a little bit more interaction just being water than the other two elements do for Guoja. So I think with equal skill pilots, it's probably here, but people would probably argue it's up here, and that's completely fine. Same thing with CL. CL is a weird one where I've only played the matchup a few times, and it seems pretty 50-50. I think like if draws are equal, all draws equal, it's kind of like up here. But if CL can last long enough to get those level 3 Umber cards online and start to get that Omen train rolling, it gets really rough for Tristan really fast. So that's why I put it in the 50-50. Same thing with fractals, specifically water fractals. I think that's pretty 50-50 for the most part too right now. I think it used to be down here, but since the ban, it's slowed down just enough in order to be 50-50. Fire, though, I think Fire, the new Fire Dao-Chan list, I haven't played against it specifically, just knowing what it's trying to do. If it sees the cards it needs to see quickly, I think it's like probably down here. So that's just a little bonus for you if you've made it to this far in the video. Fire Fractals is probably up here with Dao-Chan variant, and then the Water Dao-Chan or the Arisano variants are probably up close to 50-50. Same thing with Wind Allies and Water Allies. I think it's pretty 50-50. It's really just, it comes down to skill pilot, knowing the matchup, this, that, and the other. But overall, all things equal, I think it's 50-50 for the most part. So as you can see, pretty much every major deck in the format, with the exception of Luxem Assassin, is very good, or 50-50 at the worst for Tristan. Luxem Assassin is the bane of my existence. This matchup feels really bad. They have a lot of interaction with you. They can kill you quick just like you can kill them quick. If they do get to level 3, they can basically lock you out of the game. They can run tech in you that really is annoying. I don't know. I just feel like that this matchup has been... I mean, even the data shows it, and because I wanted to double check. I was like, maybe I'm just really bad into this matchup. But if you look at Tristan's matchup in Luxem Assassin over like the last 3 formats, it's 40%. The best she's had was way back in the Mercurial Heart meta, where she was about 44% into Luxem Assassin. So like, if you can believe that, like she's never had a great matchup overall. So I think that's probably her biggest matchup. Luckily, we're not seeing a ton of them right now. It's really funny that her worst matchup is the other in-class archetype, which is really funny. But overall, yeah, this is where I see Win Tristan. I think she's one of the best decks in the format. I think right now it's like between like Gimbu, Seru. I could never say that right. I know someone's gonna correct me in the comments. Those 2 decks, Win Tristan, probably Water Diana, and then Crux Lorraine are probably the top 5 decks. So it's like these right here with Tristan are probably the top 5 decks. But overall, I think she has a very good matchup in most everything. And again, Tristan, more than most decks, the better pilot you are and the more you understand what to expect in the meta, the more gains she gets, more so than other decks. So that's a really big thing as well. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of go through this from a competitive aspect. She's in a really good spot at the time of this video coming out, which is September of 2025. She has very good matchups or game in pretty much everything. There's nothing you sit across them and you're like, ugh, we're in trouble. Other than maybe Luxem Assassin, like, and not every deck can say that. Like even Gimbu or like Siryu, they have certain matchups where they sit across from it and they're like, oh no, we're gonna have to get a little lucky to win this one. Tristan doesn't really have that. She is the epitome. When Tristan is the epitome of like, you know, pilot skill matters, so to speak. So very good thing to have. But yeah, if you like this type of content, please leave a like, comment, or subscribe. If you disagree with any of this, please let me know. I'd love to hear it. Like I said, I've played against every single one of these except for Suzaku, transparently. And I feel pretty equal. And then I checked. I didn't look at any of the data from like Fractal of Insight until I made my own list. And my list literally was almost carbon copy. I had Crux down here. And I'm pretty sure I had Fractals up here. And then looking at the data, I was like, well, maybe I'm a little off. And so that's how I kind of ended up. But yeah, overall, about the same. Yeah, thank y'all so much. Y'all have a great rest of your week. I'm making videos ahead of time because I will be in Texas next week for my wedding. Super excited about that. So I'm trying to make some videos ahead of time. I might do one video when I'm there, like a really quick regional roll-up video for Tuesday. So y'all still get that because we have some really good regionals this weekend. But other than that, I'm doing a video Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I'm pre-scheduling them so they're just ready to go for y'all so you don't miss out on any content. And I get back the week after next on like Tuesday, and then that'll be when videos start back up again. But thank y'all so much. Hopefully y'all have a great rest of your week. Be kind to each other, and I'll see y'all next time on TCG Talk.